Hello, everyone. This is Randy I. My first video of year 2025. Welcome back to my channel. I hope all of you are having a wonderful new year. Blessings to you and your family for the first couple of days of the new year, and hope you're having a really good time. New Year's can be very interesting, can be tough, but whatever you're doing, I hope you're having a good time. I hope you've made some New Year's resolutions, and I hope you're sticking by them. And if you're not, that's okay too. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about Project 120, which is a personal project of mine. What is Project 120? Project 120 is my ambition and my goal to live to 120 years. That's right. I'm going to attempt to live to 120. I turned 40 about 2 months ago. So this is a good goal. This means that I'm at the 1/3 mark of my life. I like that. I like being at the 1/3 mark. It gives me time. I feel refreshed. It gives me a sense of scale as to what I wish to accomplish over the next 2/3 of my life, right? The next 80 years. And this will also involve some long-term thinking and looking at life a little bit differently. I know a lot of people, when they hit 40, they have maybe a midlife crisis, and they're thinking, oh my God, I have no time left, and I gotta buy a motorcycle, divorce my wife, go and date young women, blow my money on gambling, whatever people do when they have a midlife crisis. I'm feeling the opposite, in fact. I think for me, this is not a time for crisis and a time for reckless action, but instead a time for renewal and a time for long-term strategic thinking, looking at a very long time horizon of another 80 years. The interesting thing is, once you've lived the first 40, you have a sense of time and a sense of scale. Because if you've lived 40 years, you know what that feels like. And certainly I know now what it feels like to have lived 40 years. The actual feeling of time, the progress of time, the movement of time, it's a feeling, right? So if now that's what 40 years feels like, I have a pretty good understanding of what the next 40 years would feel like, and the next 40 years after that. Obviously, my body is going to change, and the environment around me is going to change, and the people around me are going to change. But I have a rough general idea of what 40 years feels like. And that's a significant advantage, I believe, to have that understanding and to have, at the very least, that feeling. So, Project 120, 120 years. I talked to my doctor yesterday. I was doing a routine checkup with my doctor, Dr. Hermant, and she's fantastic. Actually, I've had her as my doctor since I was 14 or 15 years old, since I was a high school student. She's a wonderful lady. She's in her 60s now. She'll probably be a doctor for another 10 years, and then she'll retire. But I had a conversation with her, and she gave me the standard advice, right? Exercise at least once a day. Don't smoke, don't drink alcohol, eat a healthy diet, lots of fiber. A Mediterranean diet is perhaps preferred. Stay away from things that could kill you, car accidents, infectious diseases. Low stress. Stress is really important. Having a low stress life is very important to ensure that we're not stressed. Stress correlates to almost all types of morbidities, right? It increases inflammation in the body. It's correlated to a number of very, very, terrible things. So living a low stress lifestyle is very important for anyone trying to live to 120. There are already people living past 100, centenarians. There's, relatively speaking, many of them in the world. The average life expectancy for a man in Canada, the last time I checked right now, is about 82 years old. So you're not doing too badly. So even if I meet the average life expectancy for a Canadian, I'm at the 50% mark, more or less, which is good, but not good enough, right? In life, why be average? There's no point in being average when you can be extraordinary. So I'm not aiming for the average. I'm not aiming for a mere 80 years, 85 years. No, that's not good enough. For me, I'm looking at 120. Now, there are very few people currently in the world right now who have lived to 120. It's at the very upper bound of human lifespan. But that being said, this is year 2025, and technology is changing and improving. So medical procedures and medicines and medical devices that don't exist now, I anticipate over the next several decades will be invented and will exist. So things that could harm us now and could kill us now may in fact no longer harm or kill us in the future. So using that alone, I could potentially extend my life. The biggest causes of death for people right now in the Western world, heart attacks and cancer, right? Heart attacks, cardiovascular issues, and let's put strokes in there as well. So heart attacks and strokes, essentially cardiovascular issues and cancer. These are number one and number two across the Western world. Number one and number two for people who pass a certain age, who for younger people, it's suicide, homicide, car accidents, these types of things. And obviously for infant mortality, it's a very different group of things that kill you. But for people who have made it through or past middle age, the things that will kill you, or the categories of mortality that I should be most concerned about: heart attacks, stroke, cancer. And I think number 4 is like pulmonary, so dealing with the lungs. That would be essentially flus, colds, COVID, these things that lung infections that could kill you. So you have to watch out for those too. But if you can take care of yourself to reduce or perhaps even eliminate the risk of heart attacks and cancer, I don't think you can entirely eliminate it. But there's so many things that you can do, starting perhaps just with the most obvious, even without talking about creative medical intervention, just some obvious things that you can do on a daily basis for cardiovascular health: exercise, walking, swimming, the gym, making sure that your cholesterol is low or ideal, or at least not high, making sure that your blood pressure is ideal, or at least not too high or too low. So making sure it's good. So these things will reduce or greatly reduce the risk of cardiovascular instances, heart attacks and strokes. If your heart is working well, blood's flowing through your body, you're not obese or overweight, which adds stress to the body and the extra weight. And there's all types of comorbidities associated with obesity. And for cancer, trying to reduce exposure to things that cause cancer. Air pollutants, trying to avoid environments and cities where you're breathing in lots of air pollutants, trying to avoid certain types of activities like smoking, that for example, are associated with lung cancer. Alcohol is, the research on alcohol has fluctuated over the years, and some people say, a glass of red wine a day or a week is good for you, and other people say it's not. I think the current research is that alcohol is generally, or excessive alcohol use is generally not good for you. So be careful with alcohol use. The items we use, in fact, are actually really important. I've done a complete overhaul of my home where I don't use plastic water bottles anymore. I use glass. I've done some overhaul with respect to the cookware, so we don't have like Teflon and materials, cheap materials that are traditionally linked to cancer. Food, what we eat, is so important. What we eat and how we eat it. The oils used, canola oil apparently is not very good for you, and avocado oil is apparently much better. So I think a lot of the cancer, and there's all types of cancers, and I can't be all inclusive here with my comments, but cancer, there's so many factors that trigger cancer. But food, what we eat, how we eat it, and how it's prepared, in terms of the type of materials going into the food preparation, the how it's being served, and what we're eating, like what we're actually eating, right? High fiber is good. Taking into account how many calories you're eating, low fat, avoiding certain carcinogens, especially here in North America. There are carcinogens in a lot of the food. That, for example, if you go to Europe, these food items and additives and preservatives are just banned. They're not allowed to be in the food. So, for example, do you know that there's wax on apples, which is why they look so shiny? It's actually, now apples are naturally waxed in that they have some natural wax, but the natural wax is usually cleaned off, and an artificial layer of wax is added onto the apples. And all throughout my life, I've actually been very sensitive to apple wax. If I eat apple wax, my mouth like inflames. That's just my body saying this is not good for me. But there's all types of materials in apple wax, and it's not natural wax. It's this artificial wax that they use. And in North America, there are certain additives to the apple wax that are known, or that there's perhaps speculation. Maybe known is too strong of a word, but there's certainly speculation, or at least some research to indicate that these additives to the apple wax cause cancer. But it's FDA approved by Health Canada in North America. But in Europe, these additives are not approved by the European health authorities, because they have a very different level of regulation in Europe. So an apple is actually much safer to eat in Europe than it is in North America, just based on how the wax is, the ingredients of the wax. Obviously, you can peel the apple. I mean, this is just a very small example, and it's perhaps trivial, but there's a sort of a larger message here, is that based on what you're eating in the food and based on what country you're in, it's not the same. North America is a bit lax with respect to its regulations on food and drugs, whereas Europe, generally speaking, depending on which country you're in, but generally speaking, Europe is a bit more stringent. So certain additives and carcinogens that you would find in North American food will not be found in Europe. So being aware of that is actually quite important. What we're eating, again, is a big contributor to cancer. And I'm sure over the course of, and I'm going to research this deeply as well, but over the course of my research, I will probably also find many other sources of cancer, perhaps what we're wearing, the clothes and the fabrics, maybe perhaps that contributes to cancer. I don't know. I don't know if what we're wearing and the clothes that we wear, if there's carcinogens in what we wear. Paint, I've always had some sensitivity to paint. So, the what we paint our houses with and our buildings, I certainly don't think that's good for you. So, listening to your body, I think that's really important. Listening to your body. Plastic, I've always had, well, not always, but I've certainly developed in recent years a strong sensitivity to plastic. And there's been a lot of research and talk about microplastics and how it's really bad for the body, and how the buildup of microplastics can have really strong detrimental effects to the body. So again, contact with plastics, ingesting of plastics, physical skin-to-skin contact with plastics, we need to be mindful. There's a book that came out a couple years ago called Slow Death by Rubber Ducky. And I think that's the title of the book, or something like that, Slow Death by Rubber Ducky. But it's about how our everyday materials that we use, that we come in contact with, although seemingly harmless, are actually filled with toxins. I mean, half the dollar store, the stuff that you buy there, probably can kill you if you consume or have contact with it in large quantities. In smaller quantities, it's a bit better. But in modern society, we have to be aware of the risks of the items, the food items, the materials that we come in contact with. Back in the wild, when we lived in the wild thousands of years ago, we had to be aware of certain plants, that these plants were poisonous, don't eat them. These animals are dangerous, don't have direct contact with these animals. This particular rock formation is dangerous. That particular area of the forest is dangerous. We had a better understanding of our environment. In this day and age, when we are safely living in cities, we don't have contact with the wild, but that doesn't mean dangers don't exist. In our world, the dangers are the industrial products, the food items, the drugs, the ambient, whatever it is, the radiation, whatever it is that's in the air, the ambient stuff that we need to be aware of, right? There's a whole level of risk factors and risky items and behaviors that are not necessarily so obvious to us. When something like Cheetos, right, when it comes to us in a nice bright orange package, and it has a fun cheetah in the front, it looks very harmless, and it's for kids. But in fact, it's been proven that the orange dye in Cheetos is a carcinogen, right? I think it's been linked to cancer, and it's at least for people who are following this stuff, it's a well-known fact that Cheetos is really, really bad for you, along with all types of food items. I mean, half the food aisle in any particular grocery store, like half the stuff is terrible for you. But it's sold in a way that looks harmless and looks innocent. And these are the risk factors that we now must identify, and we must contend with as sort of humans living in the 21st century in urbanized settings, right, in the Western world. Like in the same way that ancient people had to identify poisonous plants and poisonous snakes and understand what is dangerous and what is not, we have to do the same, but the stuff that is dangerous to us is disguised as not dangerous. So there's a lot of mimicking and a lot of disguise and deception in the world that we live in. And people die of cancer all the time. And when did the cancer form, right? And what caused it? Just because you don't know doesn't mean there is no cause to the cancer or to the disease, right? The cells, when they became cancerous, well, why did they become cancerous? Was it just genetics? Maybe. But there must be other factors. It's not just your genes saying at 67, all your cells become cancerous. There's some exposure to something in the environment, I would assume, in most cases, some triggering event, whether it's from the air, from what we've eaten, a long period of time of exposure to some toxin or chemical or molecule or whatever it is. And again, it's hard to trace the causation for any of this. We don't have a sort of a transcript in our body saying, oh, on November 14th, 2014, you ate this charred roast beef, and that's what triggered cancerous cells in your colon, and this is exactly what happened on this date. We just don't have the technology to trace that and to document it. So we don't know, right? Because these things, it's very difficult to pinpoint causation. But just because we can't pinpoint causation doesn't mean there is no causation. So you have to remember that just because we can't pinpoint and understand or trace it because we don't have the technology to do so currently, doesn't mean that there is no causation, doesn't mean something's not actually causing it. And I think a lot of the things that are causing the cancers are probably in our environment, some of which are intentionally disguised, by corporations and people with vested interests and organizations who are trying to sell you stuff or pushing externalities into the wider environment. For example, a factory that's polluting, that's an externality that is burdened, onto the commons, right? The collective commons that we all exist in. But this company's making money, but they're polluting, right? And the people breathing in the pollution, well, too bad. They're whatever making their products or selling it, and the pollution is not their problem anymore. So the externalities are then dispersed onto the wider society. And that's one of the key problems with capitalism, is the dispersion of these externalities onto society at large, where these corporations, they're not really that accountable once they make their profit. Whether it's corporations, pharmaceutical companies, tobacco companies, your manufacturers of particular foods, particular whatever, just pick your pick your nameless, faceless corporation. It's all part of the profit motive that unfortunately conflicts quite often with health, with our own health. So something to be very aware of. Anti-aging, right? The tech of anti-aging. There are currently billionaires and millionaires who are spending a lot of money on anti-aging technology. I certainly want to look into anti-aging technology. It has something to do with the telomeres, apparently, some shortening of telomeres. I'm not an expert on telomeres. I'm not an expert on stem cells, but it's something that I really do want to look into in more detail over the next couple months, in terms of understanding why aging takes place, how we can stop, or not maybe stop aging, but slow it down. I'm sure there's a lot of technology out there that I can explore. I contacted a clinic in San Diego, and they do a whole bunch of really interesting genetic tests. They do a whole DNA sequencing. They do these genetic tests, about $8,000 US, to get this comprehensive test package. It takes about a day. Blood tests, everything. They test basically every single molecule in your body, and the full DNA scan. And then they give you markers of genetic risks, what you should look out for. Very comprehensive. I'm considering, paying for that and doing something like that in the future as maybe just a birthday present to myself, just so I can understand risk factors, especially genetic risk factors. That's huge, right? Luckily, my grandparents have all been blessed with a long life. At least my female grandparents, both my grandmas, were in their 90s when they passed away. So they've been blessed with long life. Both my parents currently are still alive. My dad is 70, my mom's 68. So there's been some, at least some indication of longevity in my family, and no, single cause of death in my extended family. So I think we're pretty good there genetically. But now, how do we compound that into Project 120, right? How do we compound the good luck that I have with genetics and ensure that I live to 120? That's the goal, right? There's going to be a lot of research that I need to do, probably a lot of proactive intervention from a technological standpoint, on top of also the more standard advice of exercise, healthy eating, and low stress. I think those are the big three that you should be doing throughout your life, regardless. And then we have all the new tech, and how do we take advantage of the new tech. That's going to be important to take advantage of that. Okay, so those are my basic health comments, but there's a bit more of a philosophical element that I would like to explore as well, in terms of living to 120. I was reflecting on this, and the reason I believe this is a very noble goal and something that I should strive for is I was comparing different versions of my life, right? One where I become a billionaire and I become very, very rich, one of the richest people in the world. One where I become very popular, I become maybe a movie star or whatever. I become very popular. A version of my life where I don't know, I have many children, perhaps. I have a really large family. So I've compared different incarnations and permutations of my life. Theoretically, of course, this is just in my head. Like, if I wanted to achieve this particular goal, what would my life look like? Or if I had achieved another particular goal, if I'm, Prime Minister of Canada or President of the world right now. Suppose that there was some type of world government. If I was president of the world government, would that make me happy? Would having billions and billions of dollars, would that be my ultimate source of happiness? What would be my ultimate source of happiness? And I've been thinking about my ultimate source of happiness, and I really think that longevity is going to be key to anything I accomplish in life, and it's going to be one of the greatest sources of happiness and fulfillment. Because if you don't live to see your accomplishments, if you don't live to experience the world and to be able to observe the world and to be in the world as a conscious being, then a lot of what you do doesn't matter as much, right? You can be really rich, but if you're dead, you can't do much with that money. I was reading a report in The Economist about legacy giving. So apparently 25% of charities, and this is UK specific for the United Kingdom, but apparently 25% of money received now by UK charities is from legacy giving. What do I mean by legacy giving? Is it's from people who've died and they had a lot of money left over. Some portion obviously went to their family for a lot of people, if you like your family, but then a significant portion, we're talking about millions, if not billions of pounds, and I use pounds because this is the British context. It went to charities. Personally, in my personal opinion, that's a terrible waste of resources. And you heard me, a terrible waste of resources to donate to charity upon your death. That's for me, that's horrifying, and a waste. And It means that you didn't use your resources correctly during your life, right? To die and to give it all to charity, and not even giving it to charity during your lifetime, which even makes a bit more sense. If you donated during your lifetime, you saw the change, you were involved some way with the change that you wanted to see. You got the pleasure out of seeing a world that was made better by your financial resources. I commend you for that. But to die and to give your money to charity, that just seems to be a mathematical miscalculation on your part, don't you think? At death, to give millions of billions of dollars, especially for some of these very rich people, that's horrendously silly. I use a different analogy. I ran for city council when I was 29 years old in Toronto. And I had my campaign manager tell me at the time that, Randy, at the end of this campaign, your fundraising budget, whatever you've managed to fundraise, your total fundraising budget and your total fundraising, the amount left over should be zero. It should be zero. Right, you should have spent all of it by the end of your campaign. And of course, we dealt with rules where at the time where money couldn't be then reallocated to a different campaign and it couldn't be like carried over. But that aside, I mean that's sort of the technical reason. But he said to me, like, if you fundraise $50,000, you need to really spend the $50,000 by the end of your campaign. That's what you need to do. There's no point in, especially if you can't carry it over, there's no point in saving the money in terms of your campaign budget. You need to spend all of it by the end of the campaign. And it's the same thing. You can't carry the money with you if you die. You can't take it. I mean, the ancient people tried. They created large temples and graves, and they brought their grave goods with them, their silver swords and golden bracelets and jewels. And the net result is that hundreds of years later, archaeologists discovered all of these things and put them in museums. So the only people who benefited were the museums, and now they can charge admission for you to see these treasures. I don't think it really benefited the people who died with these grave goods, right? They couldn't take it with them, at least not that I know of, right? If you believe that ancient swords can go with you to the afterlife, then I'm wrong. But I think the general consensus is that you can't take your ancient swords and jewels and crowns with you into the afterlife. I mean, look at the terracotta army in Xi'an in China, when the emperor replicated his entire army and servants and horses and chariots. He tried to take it with him. It just ended up at a museum, right? So in a way, that was immortality, and now we remember who he was, and it's a beautiful, terracotta army. But I doubt he's, living the life in the afterlife with a terracotta replica right now. I just don't see that happening. So I digress about fundraising and campaigns and Xi'an and terracotta armies. But you understand my point. Is that at the end of the day, you can't take this money with you, and why the hell would you donate it, right? I don't get that. Like, after you die, I understand donating it while you're alive, but after you die, it seems again like a really, really stupid thing to do. So that being said, if you have all of these financial resources, and we spend a lot of time in life accumulating financial resources, investing, trying to build a bigger nest egg, trying to generate more financial resources, what's the point if you can't take it with you? Right? So the obvious answer a lot of people give is, well, you can give it to your children, or you should spend it. But what if there's an alternative answer? What if the alternative answer is simply living longer? Right? What if you could enjoy more of your own money and your own resources that you work so hard on accumulating? What if the answer is Project 120? What if the answer is, well, I don't want to leave the world at 85 or 90. I want to leave the world at 120. I want to enjoy another 80 years of life. And I am going to enjoy the fruits of my labor and my own resources. Not charities. Nope, you charities, you're not getting any of this. I'm sorry. I don't like you very much. You do not get any of my money. I'm going to get my money, and I'm going to live longer so that you don't get it. Exactly. Sticking it to you. You and your ridiculous management fees and overpaid employees and corruption. You know, half of these charities are corrupt. You know that, right? Half of them are corrupt. So I want to take ownership of my own resources and not just willy-nilly give it away upon death, because that seems like a very very dramatic miscalculation. So that's one reason, living long and then investing in longevity right now, investing in the things that can facilitate and that can ensure longevity, health, technology, lifestyle, these types of things. That's very important. That's the genesis of this video, why and the thought itself. The video is just a reflection of the thought. Okay, so that's the resource basis of Project 120. Let me talk about what this actually means on a practical basis as well, which is what I'm going to call your body, which I'm going to use a fancy term for it, your corporeal vessel, right? Your corporeal vessel, your body, this vessel that you find your consciousness attached to, your corporeal vessel. It becomes really important, right? It's your most precious resource because you need a corporeal vessel to carry you through reality. Without a corporeal vessel, unless you achieve singularity and you're uploaded onto the internet and your consciousness is just part of some machine consciousness that's floating with no corporeal link, unless that happens, we need a corporeal vessel to carry us, and we're all given one, which is our bodies. So we need to take care of it. This gives me the incentive perhaps to take fewer physical risks. If I'm thinking Project 120, living for another 80 years, I certainly things like skydiving may be off the menu, and deep sea diving and fast cars. These things are just to kill you anyways, right? If it doesn't matter if you prevent yourself from getting cancer or heart attacks, like blunt trauma will kill you. So that's not good. You don't want to die from blunt trauma after, or having your body broken after spending so much time and resources on, lowering your stress level and preventing cancer. And so, one of the primary causes of death among really rich people is operating vehicles, like in planes, right? So private planes, little private helicopters, private flying vehicles, pleasure crafts, boats, fast cars, helicopters, these types of things. It's one of the primary causes of death. Look at Kobe Bryant, right? Private helicopters. Not everybody can afford a private helicopter, but here he is. He's dead now. Roy Halladay, former Blue Jays pitcher, he was big into these private single person aircrafts, these little planes, single person planes. He was even the spokesperson for these planes. His wife was initially worried, but when she saw these planes, there's an entire video about this. His wife was like, oh well, then I saw the joy. He really liked these planes, and then I was sold the freedom of being in the sky. The freedom of the liberty, the freedom, the freedom, the death, the end of one's life when you mismanage these planes, right? Yeah, absolutely. You got a great view. You got a great view, but this is what I'm talking about. A lot of high-end people, high net worth individuals, they end up killing themselves. Submarines. You know what I'm talking about. Submarines. going down to see the Titanic. Those people never came back. One-way ticket. Right? They spent, I think, $500,000 each to go see the Titanic on this innovative submarine from Stockton Rush, I remember was the guy's name, the CEO of this submarine company. The list goes on. I remember this guy named Steve Fawcett, who was a billionaire back in the day. Maybe this was 20 years ago. He was flying over some desert with some private aircraft, and he never made it. They never found him. He was presumed dead. So yeah, private aircrafts, private submarines, private whatever, maybe space travel in the future, fast cars. These things kill a lot of people. So especially when you afford these things, the problem is when you have a lot of money, you want to have experiences not available to the general public. You want to have experiences not available to other people, right? You get that. I don't know, you want to post it on Instagram or Facebook or social media. You want to tell the world that I'm rich, I'm different. So I'm going to have experiences that you can't have. That makes me different. That makes me special. And these experiences tend to kill you. So you have to be humble. Because a lot of the experiences not available to other people are sort of innovative, novel, and sometimes these are sort of anomaly type experiences. And there's a reason they're not available to the general public. But they also tend to kill a lot of really successful rich people. So you have to be humble. That's one way you will not accomplish Project 120, is by going after really novel experiences unavailable to the public as a way to demonstrate to the public that you're rich or that you're famous and that you're special and powerful and so different, a higher breed of human being, if you will. A lot of people want to demonstrate that, right? It's human nature to want to flex your ego and flex in general. But these experiences, you have to be very careful with these experiences because they could be the end of you. So that's something to remember about experiences, and really going back to my more important point, the corporeal vessel. This beautiful body. Look at that. Look at this beautiful body. Oh my God, I'm so beautiful. I am so beautiful, Randy. I love you. Self-affirmation is really important. Self-love. Randy, I love you. I love you. You are amazing. You are amazing. I love you so much. I love you with all of my heart. You are my favorite person, the most important person in the world. Self-love. Self-love. Shower yourself with self-love. What are you going to do? Wait for someone else to shower you with love? Shower yourself with self-love. You deserve self-love. I deserve self-love. I love myself. I absolutely love myself. And not in an arrogant way. I love myself. I deserve love, and I deserve my own love. And no one else is going to give me this type of love, right? Except for myself. No one else is going to give it to me. You can't wait for the world to love you. Love yourself. Self-love. And self-love and self-preservation is important. So your corporeal vessel is important. It needs to be preserved. And I anticipate that I will go through life now, in trying to accomplish Project 120, with a better appreciation of preservation. Right, you're essentially driving the most expensive car, or however you want to, or you're carrying. You see these Gucci bags and Louis Vuitton bags are thousands of dollars, and you don't want to scratch them, right? It's like very precious that you put them in a dust bag and you don't scratch them. Or if you're driving like a Porsche, you don't want to scratch it. However you want to analogize it, your body is that, but 1,000 times more precious. Your body is the most expensive designer bag, the most expensive sports car, right? You don't want to scratch it. You want to preserve it as much as possible. So that's really going to change my lifestyle. In terms of some of the risks I'm comfortable taking, I may dial that back a bit. I think I certainly want to be more conservative with my risk taking, because if I'm going to go for another 80 years, I want this body to be in tip-top shape. Because again, look at this body. Yes, my man. Yes, beautiful body. I need this beautiful body to last me another 80 years. I'm only at the 1/3 mark, right? 33%, 40 years. I need another 80 years. This body needs to be rejuvenated. It needs to be taken care of. It needs to be worshipped. And that's how I can accomplish Project 120. Okay, now, financial implications. You know that I love finances. Okay, well, if I have another 80 years, long-term thinking. Long-term thinking, my friends, right? In terms of what you're investing in, whether that's stocks, crypto, or real estate. I really challenge you to start thinking ultra long-term, right? Not a 5-10-year horizon, 40-year horizon, 40-year time horizon, 50-year time horizon. What can I invest in today that can benefit me when I'm 80 years old, when I'm 90 years old, and I have another 30 years left to enjoy life? Right? I'm talking about these big time horizons. That's important. That it's changing the way that I'm thinking about time as well, in terms of patience. So, I'm going to do a stock portfolio review, a crypto review, sort of a review of my entire financial portfolio. I have real estate, I have stocks, I have crypto, but I'm going to do a review. Like, I really want to focus on, at least for a large segment of my portfolio, the ultra long term. Not like long term being like 10 years long term, 10, 15 years. Like, I'm talking 40 years, 50 years, longer than that, right? But what can I enjoy in 70 years? So this is the type of long-term thinking I'm talking about, an ultra long time horizon. It's a different way of thinking. It really is, because we live in a world where we're thinking in short term. We're thinking 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 3 months, immediate. We want everything immediately. We want returns immediately. We want everything to happen very quickly. We've lost our ability to be patient. But I really want to challenge myself to do the exact opposite of that, to think super long term in terms of financial investments. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I really don't, because I'm going to do the review, but I'm going to challenge myself to think super long term, to be super patient, to identify certain investment opportunities today or in the next year and 2 years or in the next period of time that could be investment opportunities for the long game, like a 40, 50 year play. That's going to be really interesting. And you need a lot of discipline to do that. And maybe it's already part of what I already have, but I just have to be very, as they say in the industry, diamond hand about it, right? Not touching it, just kind of let it do its thing. Don't get flustered or panic when the market goes down. Just be very diamond hand about it. Just preserve it, think long term. Warren Buffett says that all the time, right? He says, if you buy a stock at the right price, you should keep it for life. That type of, keep it for life. That type of ultra long-term thinking. Very difficult, difficult to have that type of thinking, and very difficult to pull it off. And there's so many, in a way, lack of barriers, right? Because we can instantaneously buy and sell securities and crypto. There's lack of barriers. In fact, the system's set up in a way to encourage lots of trading, lots of selling and buying, partially because the system being the organizations behind it and the infrastructure behind it, they generate fees every time you buy and sell. So there's financial incentives for you to not hold on to things long term. But besides that, just the human discipline required, that's going to be fascinating. Relationships. Project 120, I'm going to live to 120 years. What does that mean for relationships? What does that mean for my love interests, for my friends, for family? I haven't thought that far. I don't know. Are they going to join me in Project 120? Are they going to live just as long? Are they going to not live as long? Which relationships should I really focus on? Which relationship should I not focus that much on? That's going to be important. I don't know the answer to that. I may need to make another video about relationships in the world of longevity. That's going to be really interesting. Again, I don't know the answer. I haven't thought that far about relationship, but human relationships are really important. And as we age and live a longer period of time, I can imagine having strong relationships, lifelong relationships that are multi-decades. That's going to be very key to one's happiness. You don't want to live to 120 and be lonely, right? Because there's living and living well. Living well is really important. And one of the strongest factors towards living well is having really good relationships beyond health and finances and having things, having really strong relationships with other people, having good people in your life and keeping those people around. For my birthday, when I turned 40, I told the people at my birthday party, I had a little speech, and I told everyone, if you want to see what wealth looks like, you look around the room. If you want to see what wealth looks like, you look around the room, because you, my friends, that's wealth. That's true wealth, right? These relationships I've had for some of these people who came to my birthday party, I've known since I was 5 or 6 years old, right? These long-term elementary school friends and people who I knew growing up, who came to my birthday party. Right, friends from different segments of life, different times in my life. They all came to my 40th birthday. It was a fantastic party, and I said that's wealth. Wealth is being able to be in a room where you have friends from 35 years ago, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, from last week. From different times in your life, different segments, different places in your life come together into the same room and celebrate together. That's wealth. That's more important than money. That's more important than power. That's more important than almost anything. Is having those key relationships with people around you. Because being human is, to a large extent, the story of building and maintaining good relationships with others. That is key to being human. I really understood that during the pandemic when we were in lockdown and we went through long periods of isolation. Human relationships are so key. We are social animals to the core. We're not lone wolves. We are social animals. And relationships are important. And keeping those relationships, especially in the world of longevity, and maintaining those relationships will make a lifelong your lifelong journey, a journey that's worth a lifelong journey, right? Otherwise, some people don't want to live to 100 or 90 or 80. This is really strange, but I'll finish on this thought, that it actually takes ambition and it takes. This is my statement to the universe, right? I want to live to 120, at least. This is my statement, and I intend to achieve it. But a lot of people don't even make that statement. A lot of people don't want to live that long. I don't know why. I think the general consensus is more people don't want to live to 120 or 100. I talked to a lot of people who just have no interest in living that long. Maybe they're bored, or maybe they feel they can't accomplish more, or they've given up, or they feel there's no more things to accomplish. For me, it's very strange. I don't know what your opinion is, but for me, it's very strange that some people will have that opinion of just not wanting to live very long, and they're it's not that they want to die, but they're just like, well, it's my time. It's like, no, it's not your time. There's so much more you can do. I've accomplished a lot in 40 years. Imagine what I can accomplish in another 80 years. Oh my God, there's so much more I want to do. This is just the beginning. Why cheat yourself? Why cheat yourself? I don't get that. So this is my statement to the universe, right? And I'm gonna watch this video in 10 years, and watch it again in 20 years, and again in 30 years, and I'll watch it again when I'm 120. 80 years ago, I made this video, and I am saying to the universe, I am going to live to 120. I'm saying it. I'm putting that wish out into the universe, And if you want certain things, and if you work hard for certain things, you will get certain things. That's the law of the universe. So I'm putting that wish out. This is what I want. This is what I intend to accomplish, and I will work hard to ensure that I accomplish it. Project 120, baby, here we come. So in the meantime, love yourself. I wish you a wonderful long life, unless you're suicidal, in which case then I wish you a very short life, if that's truly what you want. But for the rest of you, I wish you a very long, healthy life. Love yourself, love your body, do your own project 120, 100, 150, whatever you want. Just set a goal for yourself. How long do you want to live, right? Ideally, I think 120 is pretty good for me. I think living indefinitely may actually pose problems like boredom, and just like you've accomplished everything you need to accomplish, maybe you want to die at that point. But I think 120 is good. I think 120 years is a really solid amount of time to be on this planet before you decide, I've graduated, right? 120 is a good graduation send-off for yourself. If you could choose. So I challenge you to choose a number, or whatever that number may be, and go for it. Go for it, live life, live long. What does Spock say? Live long and prosper? Does he say that? Where he does this thing with his hand? Am I quoting him correctly? Live long and prosper? I hope I am. I'm not a Trekkie. I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, but I think that's what he says. Live long and prosper. So to all of you out there, live long and prosper. This is Randy I. I'll see all of you in the next video.